away. My wife is away all this month, every weekend. She and my son Josh went out to California yesterday morning at 4 a.m. And she told me what time they were leaving. I wish she would. My internal clock works, and all of a sudden 3:30 I wake up and can't go back to sleep. But they're out there and for the next week and a half, and then she's in Delaware with her mom, and so it tends to be a difficult month. You don't get a lot of people. I used to be at a church years ago, and you always knew when it was summer because we would have 200-300 people, and suddenly there would be 50, 75 people because it was summertime, and they had a lot of places upstate. And you miss that friendship. You miss that companionship. You can call on the phone and you can text. It's just not the same. Friends are special. They're special. And God's given them to us for a reason. And He's allowed us to be a friend for a reason. And we heard about it this morning as Paul was praying, to invite people to come to church, to come to Christ. But that requires some type of friendship in order to do that. So, let me read to you the lyrics of a song. So no one told you your life was going to be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke. Your love life's DOA. It's like you're always stuck in second gear when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you because you're there for me too. You're still in bed at 10 and work began at 8. You burned your breakfast. So far, things are going great. Your mother warned you there'd be days like this, but she didn't tell you when the world has brought you down to your knees that I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you because you're there for me too. No one could ever know me. No one could ever see me. Seems you're the only one who knows what it's like to be me. Someone to face the day with, make it through the rest with. Someone I'll always laugh with, even at my worst. I'm best with you, yeah. It's like you're always stuck in second gear when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you because you're there for me too. So, Pastor Steve May heard this song, and he's been a stimulus for this series in Proverbs. And it was at a youth retreat, and he went up and he said to the band leader, "That's a great song. Did you write it?" And then the band leader laughed and says, "No, where have you been? It's the theme song to the TV show Friends. Haven't you seen it?" And he said something along the line like, "No, I don't watch sitcoms." But since then, he said he watched the show, and I'm guessing most of you have seen it, or maybe have heard about it. It's about 6 friends who are, as the song says, there for one another. You don't get a lot of friends like that in life. And it's not from a Christian perspective, so Laura shakes her head, no. So I'm not saying that I endorse the lifestyles, the habits, the political views, etc. But it's a good show because it often reveals how significant and how beneficial a true friendship can be. And the show ran for 10 years and always one of the most watched shows on TV. Won over 60 Emmy Awards. Psychologists said the show had a tremendous cultural impact. Why? Because the show struck a nerve with the American public. Because people want what the characters in the show portrayed as having. A circle of friends who will be there for them even when it starts to rain. So today we're going to talk about something that Solomon speaks about fairly frequently in Proverbs: friendship. Relationship with other people. And Proverbs says a lot about the kind of friend that we should look for, the kind of friend that we should be. And it teaches us that there's more to friendship than just being acquainted with someone or socializing with someone. Proverbs offers an exalted view of friendship that goes way beyond the surface level to a deeper level where we share our hearts, we share our lives with another individual. Solomon said this in Proverbs 18:24, "A man of many companions comes to ruin, but there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother." Now, having companions is great, but it's not enough. To make it through life, we need close, heart-to-heart, inner-circle friends. And today I want to look at two aspects of friendship: how to choose a friend and how to be a friend. Proverbs addresses both of those. And when I talk about friendship, again, I'm not referring to those people you are acquainted with, that you socialize with from time to time. I'm talking about those people that are heart friends, your inner circle, that know your life, know the good, the bad, and the ugly, and yet still love you. We don't have a lot of those. And this can be a tricky thing when we talk about friendship. It can be a scary thing. It can be a very frustrating thing. But Solomon, he talks to us and he warns us that we should be careful about the kind of person we become friends with. And we should be careful about the kind of friend we are. Proverbs 12:26, it says, "A righteous man is cautious in friendship." When I started in college, I had to pay most of my own way. My parents helped me, but they weren't in the position to flip the bill. And my dad instilled in me at an early age that you need to work. So I did the whole paperboy thing and worked at Christini's supermarket. I was in the produce section, not the fish section, the produce section. And when I came home from school, from college, the first year, I needed a job. And there was a guy that went to my college. He was a senior, and he had a painting business. And so he said, "Dave, do you want to work for me?" And he paid me okay. And so I said, "Sure." And so after a couple weeks of working with him, he would drop me off at a job, and then he would go and do another job. And I started thinking, you know what? He's not here with me. I can do this on my own. Not because I didn't appreciate what he did, but because I knew I'd make a whole lot more money. So I started my own painting business. And I put my first advertisement in the local paper, and I said, "Experienced college student." I didn't say 2 weeks experienced. I just said experienced college student. And it drew a lot of calls, and I got a lot of jobs. I had my whole summer lined up right away. Too many to do on my own, so the next summer, I went home early in April, put my ad in the paper. Sure enough, by May, when I came home from college, I was packed the whole summer long with painting jobs. But I knew I needed help. And then came along Paul. And Paul was a year before me. We both attended the King's College, and Paul needed a job. So I said, why not come work with me? And before long, Paul and I were partners. And Paul had great business sense, so he made up business cards, and we were the King's Painters. And Paul was a great worker too, and we got along so well. We shared a lot of the same values. We had met at church and the youth group. We became two peas in a pod. And we made decisions together. And we trusted each other's judgments. We ended up associating with each other outside of work. Several times we needed extra help, and we hired other friends. Some we agreed after they worked with us a few days that we can't keep them on. They just don't have it. And that's a tough thing to fire a friend. Yet Paul and I think, did it graciously, you know? And, as I thought about that, I thought that's kind of what Solomon was talking about, being cautious in friendships. I could have picked other people to be partners with, but I picked Paul because of the characteristics that he had. And let's say you're in that ballpark, you're starting your own company, you want to hire an assistant, a second in command to help you run your business. What kind of person do you hire? Remember, this is somebody that is going to have access to your money. They're going to make strategic decisions that is going to impact your future or the future of your business. They're going to portray your company to the public. What kind of person will you hire? You're just going to look for anyone off the street? Anyone that puts an application in? Of course not. You're going to look for someone with character, with wisdom, with discretion, with ability, with experience, with loyalty, right? When it comes to choosing friends, it's kind of like hiring somebody to be your right-hand man or woman, so to speak. So you're signing on as his or her right-hand man or woman. And this is the person whose advice you're going to seek, who you're going to turn to in times of trouble when it's raining. This is the person you're going to share good times with, that you're going to learn from, that you're going to teach and they're going to teach you. You don't approach the task of choosing friends lightly, and you must, like Solomon recommended, exercise caution. And you never know who's going to end up being your friend. Isn't that so true? Some friends I've had over the years I never would have picked. They were so unlike me. And yet they became heart friends. My inner circle, some of them I thought, wow, this guy's great. I would love to be friends with this person. And we ended up not really becoming friends. Not because they were bad, but we didn't click. You know? They didn't share the same things that I values and things like that. They were wonderful, but just not my heart-to-heart friend. The advice of Solomon, it goes against what some of us have been taught. A lot of us have been told to have a friend, you need to be a friend. I don't disagree with that. We're also said that you should be a friend to the friendless. I don't necessarily disagree with that too, but I still embrace some of those thoughts, but it's not always great advice. A friend is one that we can open up our heart and life to. You know, the truth is, if a person who doesn't have friends, maybe there's a reason. Maybe other people have tried to be their friend and have paid for it dearly. Maybe this person is the kind of person who's going to talk about you when you're not around. That's hurtful. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It's happened to me. And I hear that this friend of mine was trash talking me behind my back. That was tough. That's hurtful. Some people borrow money, never pay it back. They break your tools when you lend them to them. They flirt with your wife or your husband. Maybe drain your emotional resources because of the endless problems that they bring to you that they want you to solve for them. They live in drama, some of them. And maybe bringing this person into your life is nothing less than an invitation to misery. I have friends like this, and I know you do too. But these are not people that I consider hard friends. I do call them a friend, but I know with some of them I need to keep my distance, and I need to limit my time with them. Now, I'm not saying that this kind of person doesn't matter to God. Of course I'm not saying that, and that we shouldn't reach out and try to help them and love them and pray for them. Of course you should. And they might surprise you. They might become the friend you've always imagined them to be, but never really saw them as. That's happened to me too. Here I thought I was coming in and helping this person and praying for them, and they were exhausted. And over time, they became a hard friend. So we should try to influence people as best we can to live for God, to develop integrity, and often they begin to do the same with you. You rub off on them, they rub off on you. We're to be friendly to everyone, to show the love of Christ to everyone. Jesus did that. We're supposed to be like him. But Solomon urges us to be selective in who you share your heart with. Choosing a friend in a lot of ways is like choosing a mate. Therefore, in choosing a friend, you should try to choose a certain kind of person. And being a friend, you should strive to be a certain kind of person. And that's what we'll look at now. The kind of friend you want to have and the kind of friend you need to be. Several characteristics I want to bring out. Number one, a friend hurts when you hurt. Solomon told us this in chapter 17, verse 17. He said, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Think of the people that you call your closest friends. When you hurt, do they hurt? When you rejoice, do they rejoice? And obviously, if it's the latter, they're probably not a friend. But you can also ask the question, and we need to ask the question and ask ourselves, am I the kind of person someone could turn to in times of trouble, knowing that my response is going to be one of love? That might sound like an easy question, but I think we need to sit down and ponder that. Am I that kind of friend? That's the kind of friend I want, but am I that kind of friend? When I was a sophomore in college, I was struggling in school. Personally, I didn't think I belonged in college. I would study hard and maybe get a C on the test. For me, that was pretty good. And I can remember one particular night, I hit the books really, really hard. We had a test the next day, and the next day we sat down and we took the test. My roommate, who happened to be a good friend, he spent about an hour studying. I was in the stacks all day long. We took the test. He got an A. I got a D. And we were driving back to the dorm that night, and I broke down crying. His name was Sam. And I said, Sammy, I don't belong here. I studied so hard, man. You barely opened the book. You aced it. I got a D. And I went on, and I was shook. He didn't say a word. He just listened. I had another friend. I had 22, graduated from college, got engaged to a beautiful girl, loved her dearly, and it broke up. I was a mess. And I sat down with this friend, Pete, and I was broken up big time. And I poured out my heart and my hurt. And Pete just sat there and listened. Put his arm around me. I think we're lucky to have friends who care enough to cry with us during those painful times. Sometimes I'm excited and I'm thrilled with what's happening. And to have friends that can come around you and not be jealous, but instead celebrate with you, that's so special. Since that time, in college, and my broken heart and experienced that relationship with my friends, I've known other people that have gone through some difficult moments, some difficult times. I've known some who have gotten a divorce and struggled with an issue in their lives, and instead of embraced by their friends, they were ostracized by their so-called friends. Sometimes people get in financial trouble, legal trouble, and suddenly they find themselves abandoned when they need help the most. I get it. Some people have a lot of drama, and you want to keep your distance from the drama. They zap your energy. You don't want to get caught in the middle of their mess. So time with those type of people might need to be limited. I remember one friend who never had any money, but he had a better job than all of us. And without fail, after we played basketball on Thursday nights, we'd go to the diner. And we would kind of argue, me and my friends, over who was going to take this guy. Because we knew that when he ordered, we were going to flip the bill. Now, it wouldn't have been bad if he got a bagel, cream cheese, but he would get a full meal. And sure enough, like clockwork, one of us would have to pay his tab. We were still his friend, but if any real problem came up, we would have been there for him, but we all hesitated a little bit when we asked him to go to the diner after the basketball game. And again, how precious it is, how rare it is when someone stands by you in times of trouble. How wonderful it is to have someone who hurts when you hurt. And frankly, at this point, it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. It just matters that you have friends who care. Job, he said something very important in the book of Job, chapter 6, verse 14. He said, a despairing man should have the devotion of his friends, even though he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. Wherever your friends are, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. Sometimes they're going to make stupid mistakes. And at that time, more than any other point in their lives, they need a loyal friend. They need a you. The kind of friends that says, even if you go off the deep end and run from God, I'm going to hang in there with you till you come to your senses. When you're choosing friends, you need to ask yourself, does this person have the capacity for this kind of loyalty? And you need to ask yourselves, am I willing to do this for my friends? If your friend gets into trouble, you don't have to endorse everything they've done or admire everything about them, but you can still be there for them so they don't have to suffer alone. A friend hurts when you hurt. Secondly, a friend will say what needs to be said. I have been very fortunate to have some friends who never hesitate to say to me what needs to be said. Things like, you're acting like a know-it-all now, Dave. Nobody wants to be around a know-it-all. You know what I mean? Or, your jokes are funny. Sometimes, Dave, the first time, but not the fifth time. Dave, we're not really laughing with you. We're kind of laughing at you. Or, Dave, you were a jerk. You acted like a jerk. That sounds mean to say these things, but I knew these guys. These were our heart friends. No matter what, they still were. Therefore, I knew whatever they said to me was not intended to hurt me, but to help me, to speak the truth into my lives. And by the way, I was just as brutally honest with them. We're still friends. We still offer one another advice, though to our credit, we've developed some tact over the years and learned that what we say is as important as how we say it. A friend will say to you what needs to be said, even if it hurts a little bit. With a true friend, both of you know that the words are really not intended to hurt, but to help. And they're not going to abandon you after they say it. That's why Solomon said in Proverbs 27:6, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Have you ever had a friend who seemed to really say what he thought, but just faked it? I have a guy that I thought was a hard friend like that, and I was in a place where I could have really, really used his help. I was drowning. I asked him for help, and suddenly after that, he exited my life without any reason. I remember calling him up on the phone saying, dude, is it something I did? Something I said? No, it's not you. It was me. Some people pretend to be your buddy. They say nice things. They act like they want to help you. Then you discover that they didn't really mean a word of it. Or maybe it was just easier to cut ties with you because they would avoid you. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. I remember talking about this particular person to another friend of mine because they saw how it hurt me. And I said to them, I said, I feel like this guy's my enemy now. I couldn't even finish the sentence. And they looked back and they said, he is. He's not a friend. So, Solomon had lots of friends like that, obviously, because I think this comes from wisdom. He was the king. He was the richest man that ever probably walked the face of the earth. He was also called the wisest. And he said, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. And I don't want to give the impression that a friend says only negative things. That's not the case at all. A friend offers encouragement and support. A friend says things that are going to build your confidence. A friend can be counted on to give worthwhile, uplifting advice. A real friend. Solomon said that in Proverbs 27:9. He said, the pleasantness of one's friend springs from his earnest counsel. So when choosing friends, we need to ask ourselves, is this a person I can turn to for counsel? Does this person have the capacity to say what needs to be said? And you need to ask yourselves, am I willing to be that kind of friend to someone else? A friend says what needs to be said, not out of a desire to hurt, but a desire to help. Thirdly, a friend will bring out the best in you. Solomon warns us to be cautious in choosing friends because your friend's character rubs off on you. He said it in Proverbs 22:24. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. The people you share your life with have the ability to influence you. So make sure you share your life with people of good character. And I'm not talking about the acquaintances we have. Again, I'm talking about those heart-to-heart friends. Do you remember Don Johnson on Miami Vice? I'm dating myself here now.
Mm-hmm.
He was cool, right? Miami Vice was the hot show. And when his career began taking off in the early 70s, he got caught up in the whole Hollywood lifestyle. And he spent, he said, a decade doing drugs, partying, living it up. And in 1983, he finally got his life straightened out. I don't know where it is now. I don't read much about him. But he was asked once if he had any regrets. And he said, yes, I regret wasting lots of time with a bunch of jerks I wish I hadn't spent 10 minutes with now, let alone 10 years. How many times have you heard the phrase, now, he or she got just mixed up with the wrong crowd? It happens too many times, and like it or not, we tend to be chameleons. We tend to act like the people we associate with, and sooner or later we begin to take on their values, their behaviors, and their beliefs. I remember being in a youth conference one time, and the speaker, he had somebody come up and stand on a chair. And then he had this other young boy come up who was significantly smaller than the guy on the chair. And he said, okay, grasp hands. And he said to the boys, now, I want you to pull him on the chair and you to pull him off the chair. And the little boy barely tugged. And that guy came right off the chair. And he said, it's easier to pull somebody down than pull somebody up. You know what his talk was all about, friends. But we tend to be chameleons. And it might not be in a crowd, it might just be one friend who you start to hang out with. I've literally watched people change color in front of me, if you know what I mean. One person I watched and listened, so their language changed, their thinking changed, their actions changed, and I looked at them and I thought, who in the world are you? You're like them. They became someone I didn't know. And that wasn't from a crowd, it was association with one particular friend. And when they spent time away from that friend, it was amazing. They changed back to the person I knew. Could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse. In the book of 1 Corinthians, Paul warns us, he says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. He doesn't designate if that's one person or a crowd. Whoever you become close to, whoever you bring into your inner circle is going to have an influence on your life. So we need to seek out heart friends who can bring out the best in us. And hopefully we'll be the kind of heart friend that can bring out the best in them. Solomon said, Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. He doesn't tell you there's no friction there. We know there is. Now again, I'm dating myself, but it's the NFL. You never really get dating when you're talking about the NFL. But it's interesting that John Elway was a great quarterback, and he was the best quarterback probably in his last 2 seasons before he retired. And there was another guy named Dan Marino, and he was a great quarterback too. But his last 2 seasons were probably the worst of his whole career. And both men were exceptional athletes, 2 of the best in the NFL, probably both go down the Hall of Fame. But I think I know what the difference was with them. Both got new coaches toward the end of their career. John Elway and his new coach were good friends. Don Marino and his new coach didn't really like each other. And Elway finished his career with a bang, winning 2 Super Bowls. Unfortunately, Marino, even though he was an incredible quarterback, he finished his career with a thud. And both men have admitted that their relationship with their coach made the difference. Neither of those men could choose their coach, but we can choose our friends. And choosing friends that make you sharp, that bring out the best in you. Choosing friends with the qualities that you admire, qualities that you want to see in your own life. And since this is church, we're talking spiritual too. Choose people that love the Lord. And I'm not saying don't be friends with everyone else. I am saying that. But I'm saying those heart friends, it's really, really difficult to have a heart friend when they disagree with your values and your beliefs. It's difficult. And remember, none of us are perfect. None of us are, but here's the bottom line. They're going to rub off on you, whether you like it or not. And you are going to rub off on them. So, the question is, are you and how are they? It's all about the rub. Their character is going to rub off on you. Your character is going to rub off on them. So ask yourself the question, who am I spending time with? Do I want to be like them? Do I want to talk like them? Do I want to think like them? And who am I? Am I the kind of person who loves the Lord, seeks after Him, loves people, and cares for them? Am I guarding my words and my thinking and my actions? Now, we all make mistakes, but what is your heart? And who knows, by changing yourself, maybe limiting certain amount of time around certain people, not abandoning them, but limiting your time with them, you may be the one that rubs on them in a good way, in a godly, positive way. Solomon said, Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. I hope that these words that the Word of God talks to us about through Solomon inspire us in a few ways. First of all, if you don't have close friends, if you don't have an inner circle, I hope that you will begin to seek out people to share your life with. People of wisdom, of character, of compassion. I hope you will be selective in choosing those people. We all go through times where we feel friendless. They stink. Don't they? They stink. I know some of you have been there. Maybe you're there now. It stinks. God made us like we are to have relationships. That's who we are. That's what makes our day, our week, our month, or our year. When we have somebody that's there for us, even when it rains. But we all go through the times, the friendless times, and I get it. But we need to seek out new friends. And you never know what kind of gold is out there until you dig a bit. You know? Again, sometimes the people I least likely would have thought would be my friend came into my inner circle because they were a heart friend. I just didn't know it. I needed to dig deeper. I know it's scary, especially if you've been burned before. Be smart. Solomon says that, and God says that we need to venture into that realm again, even though it's scary. And pray about it. Lord, can we be good friends? Let me be a good friend. And the second thing, if you're involved in friendships that are dragging you down, I hope that you will have the wisdom to distance yourself from that person. Not abandon them. Just create some limited time with them. At least until you're in the position of influencing them, so that you can bring them to maybe a higher level of their devotion to God and with God. And third, examine the kind of friend that you are to others. You see, more likely God has already put people in your life who need and deserve your friendship, but they need you to be the best kind of friend there is to them. They need you to hurt when they hurt. They need you to say what needs to be said in a way that helps them to become better. And they need you to bring out the best in them. They need you. They need you. If you become the kind of person like that, if you're willing to be that kind of friend, it won't be long until you find yourself involved in friendships that are going to reward you and me for the rest of our lives. And the greatest friendship that we can ever have, I don't know if that's my phone. That might be my phone. Sorry, it'll stop in a second. I get these robocalls all the time. They don't know I'm in church. They should know I'm in church, right? It's probably one of my students saying, I passed, Dave, I passed. All the scripture points to this. The greatest friendship we can ever have is a friendship with Jesus Christ. He's already called us friends. If you have a relationship with him, he's called you his friend. God calls us his child. Jesus wants us to walk with him. He wants us to talk with him. He wants us to associate with him. He wants to rub off on us. Not because he's egotistical, but because he loves us and he wants the best for us, and he wants to bring out the best in us. Too many make Jesus their God, but they stop short of accepting him as their friend, too. So don't spend time talking, or rather, we don't spend time talking and listening to him. Sometimes we're like the friend that maybe some of us have had, where we only run to him when there's a tough time, and as soon as the tough time's over, we kind of walk away. He doesn't abandon us, you see. We've walked away from him. And we do that. We do that. And he wants to celebrate us with us in those good times. He wants to remind us of who he is and how much he loves us. And some of us, we don't get that. We miss out on this wonderful, wonderful friendship. Isn't it interesting that sometimes we do that to Jesus? And he is the ultimate friend. He's not going to dump on us. He's not going to abandon us. He's not going to leave us. And hearing Jesus means being in his word, but also being still and listening with our hearts. Susan shared that this morning. Yeah. Do you hear an audible voice? I never did. But he speaks here. He speaks here. He doesn't yell much. He listens a lot. He just talks. So if I am so occupied with my own requests, it's kind of like going to dinner with your friend, dumping all your problems on them, and then kind of walking away without ever hearing them. He wants to hear us. He wants to listen to us. He wants to speak to us. He wants to rub off on us. And the biggest thing he wants us to do, and he wants us to see, is the cross. Because that is evidence that he wants to be our friend. And if we miss out on that friendship, my goodness, we're missed out on life. And you know the cool thing? You don't have to measure up with him. You just have to say, Lord, I need a friend. Please come into my life. Isn't that what we do with friendships? I'm scared, I'm hesitant. Is this a friend? Is this not a friend? I don't know. There comes a point where we take the jump. Let me share with you what's on my heart. It's scary. But here's the confidence. The cross says, I paid your bill. The cross says, I'm here for you, and I ain't going anywhere. The cross says, I love you. You are my friend, even though you might not be mine right now. I'm going to hang there with you, even when it rains. That's pretty cool. That's our God. He's not just our God. He's my friend. My heart friend. And he wants to be all of our heart friends as well. As we share communion together, let's think about that. Have we made Jesus our friend? He might be the Lord of our lives. Is he the friend of our lives?